Can you please inform the people? I heard you were doing some deep diving.
Yeah, well, originally I wasn't planning to do like an actual deep dive. It was more just Detective Rogers put this article in front of my eyes on last Monday when we were doing Aotearoa Tonight. And I thought, oh shit, okay, this is... I would not have seen this if he had not showed this to me. So from the Daily Blog, Media Watch, alt-right Canadian billionaire buys even more of NZME. And this didn't have a whole lot in it, but was basically just talking about the fact that he has lifted his investment in the media business for the second time in recent weeks to just under 18%, which obviously confused me because when we first covered the story, he was only coming in and acquiring 9%. So I was like, oh, how did it get all the way up here? And so obviously that led me to having a bit of a Google and looking around because I was like, okay, this just seems a bit off. So I'm going to take this one off and we're going to add in my my not very pretty but very information filled slides. So I went through, and that was obviously on the left hand side is basically when we first saw this story. So yeah, 9 million for a 9.3% share. He's the founder and advisor of Tom Capital Management in Canada. This company largely takes interest in oil and gas, financial services, manufacturing and real estate sectors. He was also the company director of The Centrist until August 2023. The Centrist is now owned by Tamim Barakat, and Barakat was featured on right-wing New Zealand social media influencer and conservative activist Chantal Baker's Instagram page in 2023, asking members of the public about the state of New Zealand's media. The Centrist reported it had been supporting Baker with her legal challenges against New Zealand media. So that obviously gives us a bit of an idea of who this person is and how they're affiliated. And this, so we got March 6th and March 7th, and this was an article, New Zealand Herald newsroom concerned by billionaire's plan for NZME board. And basically they went through saying that their top priority is preserving the impartiality of our journalism and the independence of the newsroom. While the intentions of the potential new board member remains unclear, we are concerned about an apparent record of backing news ventures which lack transparency. Davidson also pointed to the timing of the situation, with New Zealand Herald staff still coming to terms with 30 redundancies and a major restructure. That's a lot, isn't it? Isn't it already? Then we have this article here, the Herald gets a new tone and a wealthy alt media investor. Days before major new investor Canadian Jim Grenon arrived on his share register, New Zealand Herald owner NZME sent a message to the business world that its journalism would now push positivism and economic success, which... seems very much, yeah, see, your facial, that's exactly what I was thinking. And especially when we know how much this government loves to push the economy. Only 2 months later, also published behind a paywall that I got around, outspoken NZME shareholder sells out of media company. Jim Grenon lifts stake to 13%. So this is where we see him go from the 9.3% that he originally had, and he raised that to about 13% as Troy Bowker sold his shares to Jim Grenon. But then I saw here that I was like, okay. Apparently they looked into it and they basically ruled that he did not breach the NZME takeover code. Accordingly, after the acquisition, Mr. Grenon, together with his associates, did not hold or control more than 20% of the voting rights in NZME. Hold that number in your mind. Just hold that number. Earlier in the week, it was revealed that former National Cabinet Minister Steve Joyce had been nominated for the board that he wanted completely replaced when he first bought those 9% shares. But then I thought it was really interesting because he's bought 23%. He now has over 20% of shares in NZME. So I don't know if this means they will relaunch an investigation, because it very much seems like we've given him an inch, and little by little, he's very clearly incrementing up and up to take that mile. I also, funnily enough, realized when I was kind of just thinking over this, he also obviously has very clear ties into the Atlas network, which I know I haven't really been talking about as much. But yeah, so Grenon was a paid election promoter linked to the New Zealand News Essentials website, which was a site dedicated to attacking the then Labour Green Party government, and it appeared to host anti-vaccine and Atlas Network affiliated articles, which I don't know about you, but that's already sounding like a lot of big bad. But then I was like, okay, this is giving fascism. You know what I mean?
It's giving fascist.
And so I was like, okay, I should do some reading. And then I was going through this talking about how fascist leaders weaponize media and propaganda to seize control.
Would you like me to add this to the screen?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't click it over, did I?
It's okay. Oh, no.
I gotta remove my one first. Yeah, that one.
Up.
Hip, hip.
Up.
I'm not going to touch it. You can do it.
Oh,
there we go.
Okay. There we go. One of these days.
Yes, so in here it obviously talks about seizing control of the media, highlighting that in Nazi Germany, Joseph Goebbels took control of newspapers, radios, and movies. So it wasn't Hitler that did it. It was one of his people, or people that were working in the networks around him. So, just like smells a little bit like fascism. And then obviously talks about, silencing dissent and controlling perceptions, which we have seen a lot of that happening in just the general from the right. There's also the fact that, propaganda uses fear and pride in one's country and a twisted idea of who can be part of society. There is just so many little stinky nuggets that are just hiding in there. And when I'll take that off and pop this in. I also just did a quick Google, and I was like, okay, well, NZME, New Zealand Herald. All right. I looked up basically the same thing, Gaza genocide, and then I looked at what the article titles were. And what we see here with the New Zealand Herald, they call it Gaza conflict or humanitarian crisis or war-ravaged Gaza. And then also one about fury over campaign to hunt down Israeli soldiers holidaying in New Zealand. A hotline for reporting Israeli soldiers holidaying in New Zealand has been labelled hateful and anti-Semitic. Versus RNZ, who they say committing genocide. They don't blur, they're not blurry on that. They're talking about it, whereas, the language is so clearly different. And I know I've seen a few, I couldn't find them, but I've seen a few other examples where people have just taken snapshots of the types of, the tones and the way that these are being worded. It's, I think a lot of time you also see quotation marks put around genocide, as if we have to, it's definitely... It's not looking great. And the fact that he's come in and, because we covered that, I think at the beginning of the year, basically. So little by little over the past few months, he's just now at 23%. That's terrifyingly close to a quarter of the entire is owned by him. And I haven't been able to have a look into whether there are any other, potential shareholders that have ties to his businesses as well. That might be one of my next look-ins. But, yeah, it was kind of just a fun little thing to go look at and have. And I was just like, you know what? I think we need to start paying attention to these things a little bit more again, because now it's made, my brain was kind of going down this like thing of like, okay, so now is this just the government that we have at the moment are just being so bad and attacking minorities and all of these things just so that this type of nefarious shit can just be easily done in the background, because we're so like, it's like we always talk about it. It's so hard to cover all of the stories that are coming out, and it's hard to know sometimes which ones are, more important, because most of them are important. It's how do we try to prioritize time. And so, yeah, it was definitely something that I wanted to kind of put in front of the people, make sure that they keep an eye on, and just be aware of it. Like, be mindful when it comes to the New Zealand Herald and News Talk ZB, because they very clearly have a big stakeholder with Jim Grenon, who has very clearly got so many ties to the alt-right and to obviously the Atlas Network. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Nice.
Just got to keep fighting fascism, whānau. Yay.
I was actually having this discussion with someone. I feel like I say this every week, but I just feel insane. Like I feel like a conspiracy theorist sometimes, because I'm like, look at the parallels between us and America. We're going that way, guys. We're going that way. It won't take long.
Absolutely. But and that's the thing is, like, you shouldn't feel that way, because like I felt that way back when Trump got his first thing. Like, I was having those conversations with people back when Trump first got in. It does make you feel crazy when people are like, oh, maybe it's not that bad.
Yeah. Or people go like, oh, well, at least we're not America. And I'm like, oh, just you wait. I can't wait to say, I told you so.
I mean, New Zealanders do unfortunately like to, I think a lot of people, New Zealanders like to think that we're so far away from everything else. And we really aren't. Like, we've been a testing ground for so many international things, from things as simple to testing out FPOS cards to things.
We were having a conversation about someone with that.
Oh, nice. Great.
Yes.
To, testing out fascism on us. So, like, to the not nice. So, yeah. I mean, I think people definitely use it to discredit where they shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, no. But it's pretty hard to get people to recognize, I don't know. I want to say recognize the stakes, but I honestly I feel just crazy. Like, I'm seeing something. Yeah. I can see it there, and it's clearly there, and the steps are there, and it's all happening, and we're all moving in that direction. But you try and explain it to people, and they're just like, oh, okay. Well, yeah. And it's true. If you step away from this and you go touch some grass, like, you do realize that the internet that we live in, and like the world that we consume as political fanatics, and news fanatics, is only online. But also, because when, us who are not directly affected by it every second of every day, we can step out. Like, it's a privilege, right? You step out of it and you're like, okay, I went and touched some grass, and actually it's not as bad as we talk about on here, because we try and bring light to these things. But at the same time, it will eventually be as bad. We just, like, there'll be a point where you can't step outside and pull away from it, and that's when we've gone way too far.
Absolutely.
But like in everyday, like, face-to-face conversations and things, like it's not right there, but there will be a turning point where it's like, cool, I'm going to go and sleep in my car. I don't get paid enough, and I know that's already happening, but I mean, but that pool of people that's happening to is going to increase, and those people who think that it's not going to affect me, it will start to affect you. And then when that happens, it might be too late. So, like, I always say, when you go to vote for the person that is in the most vulnerable position that you know in your life. And if you do that, I feel like you're always going to vote in their best interest, and in turn, it will be in your best interest. It's a hard thing for people to get their head around sometimes, and it's like, what, my mortgage rates? You know, blah, blah, blah. Power bill, yada, yada. It's like, nah, it will eventually help you. Trust me.
Yeah. Although I do think that's also just because New Zealanders are still terrifyingly apathetic towards politics. Like, I was even just trying to talk to my nana the other day, being like, "Oh, so did you get your voting papers?" She's like, "Oh yeah, but what's the point? Doesn't matter who And I was just like, had to have I was like, no. Like, tried to explain it to her a bit, but like, I definitely think that is changing, and I just hope that we see more of it, because that's what we're going to be able to do to counter. Like, I started looking into, I think I was looking at one of Robert Reich's videos about like how to counteract fascism. One of the biggest parts he put in there was community building. All of the things that obviously we're currently doing on the show and trying to extend out into our everyday, like, real world lives. Like how, actually, as a good reminder too, this weekend in Wellington, we're going to have a BHN meetup so that we can all scream about this in person, or maybe not scream, but like, within reason.